All right, Ken, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, coming in loud and clear.
Okay. Okay, great. So let me go ahead and share my browser. Okay, so what we've been pretty much focusing all of our energy on the DXP, which migration, which is the upgrade of virtual lab collaboration services to the next version of LifeRay. It's a significant upgrade of the services. It's the underlying framework has changed quite significantly, which necessitated that we had to re-implement and rewrite all of our customizations, and there have been a lot of them. On the positive side, from a user's experience, I believe people are going to be happy, and we've had help from a developer from NSSL or for the training branch over in Norman, Oklahoma, who has very good front-end skills. If you want to, basically working on the look and feel of the site, and so she's really been helping us with that. And so not a lot of progress in other areas, unfortunately, but the good news is that once the migration takes place, there are going to be a lot of issues that have been backlogged that we're addressing within this. And so what I wanted to do is kind of highlight some of the changes. Is it okay if I do this at this point, John, within the meeting, or did you want me to wait for that?
No, I think this is a good time. I don't think we have an agenda item specifically for the, the migration.
Okay.
This is the
Okay.
time.
Okay. So, so let me go ahead. I restarted the services right before this, so I'm gonna go ahead and so the site's probably going to be a little slower than it should be, but I was trying to make sure everything is out there. And so from a front-end perspective, there are going to be changes for users when it comes to, especially those of you that are community owners. That's where the changes are going to be the most significant, and we're having to wait. I should not have done this. I thought 20 minutes was enough time, but it apparently wasn't. So we're going to have to wait a minute. But basically, the site itself is structured in a way that the way in which you get to the administrative pages is quite different, but the layouts, the portlets, everything that's on the pages should be the same as previously. And so now it looks really ugly, but we'll do a hard refresh, and hopefully our theme will be there, or maybe not. So let me just give it a minute. This is not what you would expect, so let me go ahead. Confirm some of the elements are here, but not the main ones. So it's not a good first impression, but we'll go ahead and so if we come into on the left-hand side here, this is something that's different for the theme, and that's here. Let me go ahead really quickly and redeploy the theme. Make sure it's up. So if we go to configuration, instances.
Hey, Ken, if you think it would be appropriate, we could go on to the next agenda item. And
that would be good, and that would give me time to
you can work on
get the themes working. So
okay,
that would be perfect. So
sounds like a plan. Let's go ahead and do that if everybody's in agreement. Let me pull up the agenda just so we have it in front of us. So let me go ahead and steal back the presenter role. And let me see, I'm going to, oops, sorry. Make presenter, there we go. Show my screen. There, okay, so everyone should be seeing the agenda for today. And we're going to go ahead and come back to Ken in just a minute, but we have a couple candidate issues that are ready to be presented by the various folks who are endorsing them. So the first one, and I think I have it here, candidate issues, is to be presented by Brian Maritsky. Are you there, Brian?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the ticket for you, and if you would give us just a quick overview and why you think this is something we should endorse.
Trying to can't see your screen that well.
You want me to? Okay, I can make it bigger.
I got it. I made it bigger myself. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I need to just quickly remind myself. Oh, okay. So basically, the behavior of the announcement portal is the announcement portal. If you're to use it in a community, it shows announcements that are valid for the logged in user rather than announcements that are specific to the community. So that means if there are announcements coming from another community or somebody else who's got an announcement portal and those are the permissions are made so that they are available to the login user, when the user goes to whatever community they're going to and sees an announcement portal, they're going to see all announcements as opposed to announcements that are specific to the community. And the suggestion is that we need some sort, well, I understand that there may be a need for something like that. I think Ken Sparrow might use that for some of the broader news features of the VLab. There needs to be some sort of portlet that you could use for community announcements that only displays community-based announcements for the community that is using that. So that's where we are with that.
I will add, Brian, just so provide a little bit of background. This has kind of been a recurring issue, so it can be quite confusing for the user to be in, say, the let's call it our community, and see these announcements for other communities that they're not currently focused on. And so we, in fact, took the portlet off of one of the pages, took it off the landing page because it was causing people confusion. So I think this is
I know.
Very well.
Yeah, I know. I took it off a community I was in, and it was not something that, it was just confusing, like you said, and also it wasn't what I wanted in terms of making announcements.
Absolutely.
So hopefully it can be seconded for ranking.
Does anybody have any questions for Brian? Okay, great. Would anyone care to nominate this as a endorsed ticket for the VIT? I guess Brian will do that honor. And
I'll do it. Anybody second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Thanks.
Then, unless there are any objections, we will consider this a VIT endorsed ticket. I'll move it to the ranking spreadsheet, and we'll give everyone an opportunity to weigh in on just how much effort we need to spend on it. Alrighty, it's endorsed. And so that brings us to our second ticket, and I think John Brost is going to be able to talk to us about this. John, are you there? Or maybe he's not in attendance. He was planning to be, but apparently has not been able to make the meeting. So let me go
But
ahead and, yes?
John, so I don't know what you talked about with John or JJ as he goes by. Steve is the new Southern Region representative, right?
Right.
Okay. So maybe Steve, you want to introduce Steve to the process here, and he may not be ready to talk about it, but you could tell him how this would go.
Right. So I guess as we transition away from John JJ as the primary representative, you will basically receive the suggestions from people within your organization, and when that happens, you will receive an email alerting you that this new suggestion has come in, and it'll give you generally an idea of how to get to the suggestion within the virtual lab. And the idea is that there's a workflow there waiting for you. And one of the first steps that workflow takes automatically is to create a ticket just like the one we're seeing here. And then, so you go into the VLab, you process the workflow, and the idea there is just to confirm that you've seen it, and basically that's the end of that. And now the suggestion lives on in this ticket within the Virtual Lab Improvement Team project. And initially, it's kind of a roughed out, a ticket. So there's some items that need to be sort of adjusted. And so we have instructions on how to do that. And you would find that under our VIT process. And if you go there, I guess we can quickly go there. Oops, that's not the best way to get there. All right. Okay, now we'll go. So in the process, in the our process here, which we find under the main tab, there's the submitting an improvement idea, and then here's the reviewing and approving of the process. And if you go to this page, it will quickly give you the idea of the steps on what you need to do to sort of enhance the ticket so that it better reflects the suggestion that the user has put in there. All right, so we'll go back. Let's go back to the candidate issues. And now back to the ticket at hand. So once you have this ticket ready, you work with the submitter, the person who gave the idea, and you make sure that you have a good understanding of it and that the information in the ticket sort of captures what this individual is after. And once that's been accomplished, you say, hey, this is something I think the whole VIT would appreciate and would endorse. And so as the champion then, you change its status. So you can see that this is a nominated candidate. You change its status to nominated candidate. And then as I prepare the agenda for each meeting, I'll go in, look at all the tickets that have been changed to that status, put them on the agenda, and then we'll go like we're doing now. We'll consider them. And as the person who has endorsed it, or not endorsed it, but who has championed it, you will then give us a quick overview of what the ticket's trying to accomplish at a meeting, and then we will then consider whether or not we want the VIT to endorse it. And so that brings us up to where we are now. And are you prepared to talk about this particular ticket, or should I go ahead and try to introduce it?
No, you're right. I haven't been briefed on this, and I'm spinning up, so go ahead.
All righty. So the title is the VLab needs a more intuitive way to get back to the virtual lab landing page. And that's pretty much what it says. If we go to, this is a typical virtual lab page. You might be in your community perhaps, and you want to get back to this page. So let me see. I'll quickly go to our community. So here you are, you're in our community, and you want to get back to the virtual lab landing page, the one we just left there. And it's kind of the roadmap to some other useful information. So that'd be a logical thing you might want to do. And the user is saying that there really isn't an obvious way to get back to that. Now, there are ways to do it. One way is to use the My Communities drop-down portlet, or drop-down menu, and then you simply go to the virtual lab community, and that takes you to the landing page. But the user is saying that that may not be as obvious a way to do it as he would prefer, or they would prefer. The other way to do it, and this is the one that's less obvious, is that if you click on the Virtual Lab Improvement Team banner here, that will take you back to the landing page. Oops, it did not take me back to the landing page. Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. I'm sorry. So this is the landing page. So this user is proposing that we need to figure out, or the Virtual Lab support team would need to figure out a more intuitive way to go from a typical community page back to the Virtual Lab landing page. And that is the issue before us.
So this is Reed in Western Region. I literally ran into this issue moments ago when I was trying to find another thing on Virtual Lab. And it took me a minute to figure out that I could click on the Virtual Lab logo up there in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that it's intuitive to have it under My Communities just because you're looking for communities there, not like the main homepage. So I think just like a little home icon next to the Virtual Lab logo up there in the corner, maybe just to the right of it there, would be helpful. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I did literally just run into this problem myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And is this addressed with any of the new formats?
Yeah, so you're gonna see in a minute when I demonstrate the new site some of the things that we've done, and if you've got suggestions to improve it further, we can definitely take note. And now is a perfect time to do that.
So
we might want to table it, John.
Okay, we can. Yeah, I think we should. Perhaps we can table it till later in the meeting. In fact, if it seems appropriate to come back to it, we can do that. So we'll postpone this till later in the meeting, perhaps, or maybe for the next meeting, depending on how things go. All righty. So now that brings us to our agenda. We have taken a look at these, and now the next item on the agenda is the, so last year, the VIT accomplished a number of things, a number of issues were implemented, and by implemented I mean that the Virtual Lab support team, took these issues as input, created some change to the website, and they're now available to users. And so Brian suggested, and I think it's a great idea, that maybe we should take a few minutes here now that we've gotten into the new year, look back and just quickly go over some of the things that were accomplished in the previous calendar year. So I have prepared for us, let me see, I'm going to move these two out of the way so you don't have to look at them. I have prepared a listing of the, of the various tickets that were basically implemented last year, and I'm trying to remember how many there were. Let's see, I believe there's 10. So the first one, and I think probably the most noteworthy one, is that last year, although the date says it happened in 2018, the work actually was completed last year. We implemented Google single sign-on across all the major applications within the Virtual Lab. So now whenever you log into VLCS or LifeRay or Redmine or Garrett, you really don't have to worry about the login process because you've already logged into your email, and by virtue of single sign-on, you're taken immediately to the application. So that was a big one. We had ranked that as having an impact score of 9, so it was nice to see the final application be Google sign-on ready this year or past year. The next item was titled Need to be able to quickly view community owners. And let's see, I have a tab here somewhere. I may have to go find it because I think I changed it. But so what this particular issue was is that if you go to the, wait a minute, which one is this? This is able to quickly view community. Yes. So if you go to the My Communities, and this is not the right place to do that. Let's just do it. Never mind. So I'm going to use the link to take us back to the landing page by clicking on the logo. If you go to the My Communities tab of the My Communities portlet, we now have the ability to mouse over any particular community and see who the owners are. So it makes it a lot more convenient for the user, rather than having potentially to become a member of a community, and then and only then would they be able to find out who the owner is. They can now mouse over this little eye icon and see the various owners of the see the various owners of the particular project or community. So that is what happened as a result of this particular issue. And then somewhat of a related one. Oh wait, no, this is okay. This is the development of the theme. So much in the same way, Ken is in the process of developing a new theme for the DXP version of the VLab. Last year, we undertook an effort to enhance the look and feel of the VLab by instituting a new theme. And in this particular case, that theme was implemented last year, and I think generally speaking, people were very happy with it. So all in all, I think an improvement. There was also this need to expand the profile. So we all have profiles. Everybody has their own personal one. Let me see if I can find a tab we can use. So let's just use this one. And if you go in here under your name, you go to your profile. I go over here to my profile, and you'll notice that there's all kinds of information about you. And this particular user suggested that they needed another bit of information in their profile, and that was the work organization. So then within their community, they wanted to identify people by who they represented in the organizational structure. So we added that for them. And now everybody enjoys having that information assigned to them. And then we'll see how that plays out here in a minute. Get rid of that. So then the idea was, okay, well, now that we've got that information in there, we need to have more control over this community members portlet. And so you can see how, in this next example, how that plays out. So we go to the all available communities, and then, oops. Wait a minute, here it is. Yeah. No. Okay. We need to, let's see here. Hold on just one second. We will get back to this one in a minute, but let me see. How was I going to do that? So, oh, I know where it is. Never mind. I got to go to another community. So we go to the test community. And on the test community, we have put a site members, hello, there we go, the community members directory. And so here we have this work org now. You can see it over here. And it allows you then to basically, not only know what their job title is and all the other information within their profile, but it shows up as this work organization right here. Okay.
And the portlet, I think, based upon our requests, allows you, each community owner, to define which of those fields they want to display.
That was
the other aspect of it.
Right. So if you go into the configuration for this portlet, so you can see how it's taking up too much room. Well, I really don't want to have all these pieces of information, but I really think this work organization is important. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to adjust the configuration. And so I decided, well, I like the job title, that's great, screen name, but I really don't want the life rate organization displayed. So I save that. We go back to the project, we do a quick refresh. Wait a minute, what happened here? I guess I need to get rid of one more. Let's try this one more time. How about?
Yeah, it's because you had to scroll down because you were displaying multiple columns, and it was to the right of what you had.
Right. So let me go back here and tell me how. Okay, so now I do. This worked earlier, I thought. I was playing.
No, it worked, John. It's just it was all to the right, hidden back behind. So we really needed that.
Yeah. So here's what I was trying to accomplish was the skinnying down of the chart so that you can then display the information that you want to display in a look and feel that, suits your needs. And so that's what this whole idea of having more control over the portlet. So not only can you see it in the portlet from having done the, wait a minute, no, the profile expansion, but you can use the more control there to adjust the look and feel to suit your needs. Alrighty, and then moving on to this next one. So determine how VLab users, or determine the VLab users for each organization. So the idea was that a particular VIT member might want to reach out to the users of the VLab within their organizations. And so the goal was to provide a listing of the email addresses for those users to each of the VIT members. And so we did that, I think it was back in, about back in July, yeah. We went ahead and provided everybody a listing of the people who are in their, the email addresses of the people in their community, or in their organizations. And basically it's just a long list of the email addresses that we found in the database from active users, as opposed to, you know, every user who might be from their organization in the VLab. So these are active users. Alrighty, so let's just get rid of that one. And moving on to 26822, if I can scroll down. So this is improve the format of the community description. And if I can find I think we have one. Yeah. So this was improve the, oh no. We want to go back to the landing page. And on this page we had the information for the owner, but if we go to the All Available Communities tab, we also have some information there. So before, when you would see this portlet, you would see the name or the title, Advanced Technology Demonstrator, and then there would be a bunch of information, basically the description of that particular community. And the idea was, I think Brian suggested this, was that it'd be much better if that information was sort of available, but you had to mouse over to see it. And so we put the information in a little mouse over. And so this particular community's description was Advanced Technology Demonstration. If you go down here to this one, it gets a little more verbose. And finally, I don't know where there's some in here that are just really tons of information. Yeah. So it really decluttered this portlet and allowed you to just kind of look through here at the various communities. And then if you wanted to learn some more about it, you could then access the little mouse over. And so that's what this particular ticket was involved with. Alrighty, and then let's see, provide note creation functionality. So this is something I can't really show very well, but basically in Redmine, there was the need to share, notes on a particular, I think it was an issue, on issues. And so here's some of the examples of why you might want to do that. Basically you can provide sort of key information to help the developer, or you can provide sort of managerial or management kinds of issues, like Terry's working in Holland and won't be able to work on it for the next 2 weeks and that kind of thing. And so this was implemented, and now the teams out there working on these various projects are able to better communicate, which is, of course, the whole point of having the VLab in many ways. Alrighty. So there was another look and feel related ticket that allowed us to basically capture that information from the virtual lab support team. So we basically, the virtual lab support team approached the VIT and basically provided sort of an idea of what we were doing, and then invited our input, and we provided that input, and so that was manifested in this particular ticket. Alrighty, so then no employees who have not logged into the VLab do not show up in an available list of members. So at one time in the VLab's history, only people who had logged into the VLCS, for example, were actually in the database. And so if you were a community manager or owner and you wanted to add somebody, the paradigm was that you would then send an email to that person and say, would you please log into the virtual lab at this URL? And then once they had done so, you would see them in the database, and then you could add them to your community. But those days are behind us now, and we can, if you look at the virtual lab, let's see, I think I can use this one. So if you look at, let's quickly go to the users page, and assuming I've done it right, you'll notice that there are 24,512 users in the virtual lab, and that is because we have now brought in all the, essentially the LDAP database users. So now when you go to add someone, they're already in the database, and there's no need to send the email. So that's what we did under that particular ticket. All right, and I think the final one is another Redmine.
How do you, John?
Yes.
How do we get that number though?
How does the LifeRay get the number?
There are not 25,000 users in NOAA. There are not 25,000 employees or close to that in NOAA.
Well, there of course
are there contractors as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's reasonably close. I mean, we have definitely entered a number of external users, but I don't think we've entered, thousands of them. So it's mostly NOAA staff.
Okay.
So the final one is the Inlets project had requested this particular portlet that would allow them to develop in what they call scrums. And because they were using this technique, the portlet provided them some tools which made their use of the VLab even more powerful than it had been. And so we implemented the plugin, and they are happily using it now. And them and anyone else who might want to do so. Alrighty, so that kind of wraps up the look back on what we accomplished last year. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, well, great. So I hope you all enjoyed that.
John?
Yes?
I was going to bring this up separately with Steve if he was on the call, but next time he's on the call, I think maybe a note of appreciation, or I don't know if you can, just tell him I think he's already done it, a note for appreciation to the VIT, but I think he's done it in some presentations and stuff like that, but something just to, make it known about the VIT and make sure that the headquarters leadership is aware of it. We can bring this up with Steve next time, but just something to think about.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give him a heads up that we'll be mentioning that at our 27th February meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. So if Ken is ready, do we want to switch back gears and let him go ahead and...
Yeah, go back. Yeah, go back to Ken.
All right. Get this open. Oops. Okay. All right. Okay, Ken, I am try to make you presenter.
Perfect. Okay. So it's looking much better. So it was about 2 minutes after I switched that things cleared up. All right, so this is, you guys are seeing the landing page. It looks just like our, well, not just like it, but there's similarities with, so this is a public-facing page, and one of the things that we've tried to do here is if a community has both public and private pages, we make note of it by having public listed, and then that actually, if there are private pages within the community, you can hover over that, go to the private pages, and that will actually take you to the private pages. So you can click on that to switch between the private and public pages. Now, if you're not logged in, that's not going to show up on the public side. So obviously, we wouldn't provide access to private pages if you're not logged in, because you have to be logged in to have access to them. And it may be that it'll take you to pages which you're not a member of, and in that case, then we have logic built in that if it's an open community or restricted community, it would give you the opportunity to join it right then and there. So,
hey, Ken.
So, yeah.
Just one question right off the bat. So, you're on the page right now. You're in the private
Correct.
VLab community. It seems a little confusing to me. Even though that's noting that you're in the private community, you would think when you clicked on it that it would take you to the public, right? And which is what it does. But I would think that would take me to the private, even though I'm in the private community.
Yeah, we're trying to figure. If you can think of a better way of handling this, I'm all ears.
Okay.
We're trying to do two things here. One is that we're trying to convey, make it very clear, because if you're in a normal community, not the default community, to be able to figure out, unless you really know the community well, to know very clearly if you're on public or private pages, that's something that was missing previously, and so we're trying to convey that. And then we said, okay, well, we really need an easy standard way to switch between the private and public pages, and we kind of overloaded this. I agree, it's a bit, it can be a bit confusing.
Let me ask a broader question as you go through this, because I don't want to take too much time now. We can have maybe like 2 weeks or something like that before our next meeting that we could go through, give the VIP members the opportunity to go through and make some suggestions on the.
Definitely. Yeah. So our timing for the migration right now, we're planning on doing the migration on the 23rd of March. So it's about a little bit over a month out. If for some reason we're making the go/no go decision on the Tuesday, the 20th of March, at that point, to make sure that everything is clear. The way in which we're doing the upgrade, just so everyone understands, is that we basically take the live site. It has a relational database. It has a document library. It has all the files, everything like that. And then we go through the upgrade with that live site. And then we basically have to, it runs a bunch of database scripts, and then we have to push out all of our modules that we've upgraded. We've been spending the last 6 months upgrading to work within the new system. So anything you do within VLab today, it'll still be there when we do the migration. But yeah, you'll have. It'd be great if there's feedback, you can provide that within the next few weeks. If there are big changes, obviously sooner is better. But yeah, so okay, so that's just something that we were trying to address with the change. The big differences used to be called the dock bar at the top. The language has changed a little bit with Liferay. It's called the control bar. Up here, very similar to if you are using the Google tools, we've done some consistent things there too. And if this really isn't a factor unless you're a community owner, but if you are, you can get to the menu to do all of your work by clicking on this, and then that then expands this area here. The control panel is mostly for the site administrators like myself that are portal wide, so that really isn't a factor for others. But then your personal pages and things like that, you can also get to it here by clicking on this little icon that tells you how many notifications you have, and then you have your account settings, your organizations, your profile like we had before, and then the dashboard is what we'll attempting to roll out at the same time, and that's your private pages. So these would be an area where you can have content that's specific to you, that's not shared out to others, but it's just your own personal area. So you can get to your notifications by clicking on notifications, and then that then all loads on the right, so you can see all that. So if you want to hide it, you just click on that button. It slides it back to the left. And let's actually go back to the site. So we'll click on that. Other things that are of interest, this here, this is a change, and that is we had the My Communities drop down. Now it's select a site that'll be a selected community. I haven't had a chance to roll out that language change. And then it brings up the recent communities that you have gone to, and then you can just click on those to go to it directly. So like if I wanted to go to the VLab Improvement Team, I could click on that. If I wanted to bring it up in a new browser tab, I would click on this here, the little icon to the right. So let's just bring it up here. That'll take us to the VIT pages, the community, and then you can go through just like previously. Again, this is showing that, okay, these are the public pages, and then that would take you to the private pages. So we could get to the private pages. So I find that useful. I agree it's a little counterintuitive initially. If you're the site selector also, so the nice thing is that if you're a member of a lot of communities, this really streamlines it, so the things that you're going to most frequently are at the top of this list. And then if you need to get to all of your communities, you would click on My Communities, and you can do a quick search or scroll down to do that. So anyway, that's a change, but I think it's an improvement. Again, you can click on this to take you back to the NOAA VLab homepage, and that would take you back to the main community. If there's something else we can do to make that clear, we do have the hover on it, but I'm all ears there too. Let's see, some other things that are here. Some of the things are the same. The chat at the bottom, and the one thing we did do is we're trying to standardize between the services. So if you're in VLCS and you want to get to Redmine, how do you get to it? Click on this here. That'll show you that you can get to Redmine, go to the code review, or get to Jenkins, and that will allow you. And then we're going to put a similar VLab services icon, kind of along the same lines as what Google does, within the other services. Like if you're on Redmine, it would be there too. So you could get to VLCS from there. So that'll make it clear. Help will take you to a page that then has what you're familiar with. It would also have the user's guide and a link to get to that from there. And let's see, configure page, that's really something, again, for the administrators of the community, but that's how you would do it. So you can click on that. That will then allow you to go in and configure the pages. That's pretty much the same as what people are used to. I hadn't clicked on this since the restart, so it's taken a long time. If you wanted to add content to the page, like new portlets and things like that, then, so you can see here, this is how we would change the layout and things like that. So I'm going to cancel that and come back. If I wanted to, let's go over to another community. Let's say within the vid, if we wanted to add another portlet, you would just click on add. That's then going to make available the listing of all the portlets that are there. And again, I hadn't clicked on that since the restart, but you can come in here. And so if I want to add an asset publisher, I can just do that. And this is no different than today. You just drop it onto there. I'll have to figure out why it's doing that. That's a new one. So anyway, that's some of the main changes. Yeah, there are some really nice features in terms of the community within the communities, what you can do. The Forms are much nicer. You can actually have like multi-panel options and then make decisions along the way so that you present different options to user if you're collecting information. That's much better. There's a streamlined editor, like the what you see is what you get. The editor that's there, it's like an inline editor, and so that's an option for people. There's also one of the things I really didn't like, and a lot of people didn't like about the previous version, was that you, if you wanted to add a document like an image or something like that, you first had to upload it to your document library and then attach it from there. Now you can upload it directly from your computer, so it's a much more streamlined process. The administration within a community is similar. So it used to be that you would go under administration, site administration, and then go into the appropriate section. Again, within the community that you're within, you can come into here and go in to each of those pages, configure add a child page, configure those, go into the content. If you're modifying web content or adding web content, you can just click on the content here and do that. So that's a very brief overview of what we have. But are there any questions for me?
Any questions for Ken? I think it's a lot of stuff, Ken, to look through.
Yeah, there are changes for sure. Hopefully for the better.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd like to make it John in action. John should tell to look, have the members look at this, and now this is on the dev server, right, Ken? So it's a little slower.
Yeah, so it is a little slower. So if anyone wants to get to do some testing, it's just VLab-dev.
Now, do you have to be on a NOAA network to access this? I think I was. You don't? Okay. I was having some trouble accessing it from home.
Yeah, you shouldn't. It's open like the other services too.
Okay.
So, and we do have single sign-on enabled here as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there are certain things we're still working on. We're actively engaged trying to get everything in place. But I did, for example, this a little bit earlier this week, we had the Mike Giebler spent a lot of time migrating over the Ideas Marketplace. So that's in place now. Don't be annoyed by these little things popping up. That's because I'm an administrator that those show up. A normal user won't see that. So anyway, okay. But if there are, if you run into any significant issues or have suggestions for improvement, please let us know, and we'll try to address those things. So that's it.
Thanks, Ken. John?
Sure,
Yep.
Brian.
I'm taking presenter roles back over. And that brings us down now to, let's see, a quick open action item review. I'll bring up that just ever so quickly. Let's see. I think I've got it right over here. Yep. So there aren't many, but that's good because that means we've kept up with stuff. The drawing down here, we've got, oh, there we go. So the first one is this strategic planning team charter that Bill Ward is on the hook to provide us, is still an open action item. And I don't think he's here today, so I doubt there's an update on that. And then Tammy, who also not here today, she's been working with Eric Rasmussen and trying to basically come up with some more VIT tickets. based on his thoughts and ideas. That's still open. We have also related to the strategic planning team is the idea that Bill will probably consider incorporating some policy topics in his plan. And finally, we get down to I guess what Ken has agreed to add all National Weather Service organizations to the, I'm sorry, all NWS staff to the NWS organization. And this would facilitate use of the Ideas Marketplace, I believe. I assume that's still to be done on the to-do list?
Yeah, I think we're doing that when we migrated to DXP. So.
Oh, cool. So that'll be coming off our list here in the next month or so. Wonderful. And the last two items are just items that we can close out today. The first one was to ensure that 41276 was included in our next meeting, which actually is occurring today. And also the summary I did of the VIT issues has been taken care of and briefed. So we'll be able to close both those items. And I believe that brings us to our open forum.
Hey, John.
Yes.
I had brought up an email to you about the strategic planning team.
Yes.
Did you see that?
The one where you were considering, you wanted to make that as possibly an open forum topic?
Yeah, or do we have an open action on it? Or no?
Not an official VIT action item. I think the team itself has at least one and maybe other action items, but
okay. Maybe a VIT action item would be to get a update on that team.
Okay. Got it. And I believe Reed had an open forum topic for our consideration.
Yeah, so there was a suggestion submitted by Warren Blair out of Monterey, and he was wondering if there was a way that we could display how active a community is. He's trying to determine whether he should join a community or if it's just an inactive community, and he wanted some measure of activity displayed on the all communities list. And so I went back and forth with him a little bit, and his suggestion was adding a couple of columns to the all communities view, one showing the date of the most recent posting and a second showing how many postings there have been in the last 30 days. And that would give him a sense of how many or how active a community is. Now, with the current layout of the VLab homepage, and if you go to the All Communities tab there's just not enough room to post or to have two extra columns there. But in the view of, if you just want to go join a community and it pops up in a new window, there is considerable room where we could consider putting something like that in. So I wanted to just bring that up and have it as a little bit of a discussion to see what others thought of that, if there was any other metrics, and how that might be implemented, or other ideas to consider along those lines. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, this is Ken. It is a good idea. We've talked about that ourselves, trying to measure that. That's a good measure if the community has forums. The other thing we've looked at is because sometimes communities are using web content or wikis as their primary means of collaboration. So it might be that we provide some sort of information of when were the last updates, and that could be either web content, wiki edits, or forum posts. Sure. So we could do something where potentially you hover over it. Now, one thing I didn't talk about that I've been thinking about with regard to the new community and within DXP is that because we have that site selector now that takes you to your recent communities, our thought is that the welcome page, the landing page, shouldn't contain the community's portlet any longer. that the communities, the landing page should be a more dynamic page that's going to basically have, you know, update what's new, things that are happening within VLab, make it more interesting for people. And that the communities tab, which we've used, which isn't necessarily used all that much, where we do have more space, would have the My Communities portlet. And some of the things that we've done previously to really save space and things aren't really issues any longer, because our thinking is that the My Communities, available communities, that's more for exploration and for people trying to find new communities. And I agree completely that you want to get a sense for not only how many people are there, but how recently, what's going on within the communities. So, so yeah, I think it's an excellent idea, and we'll, yeah. So I'll leave it at that. But yes, John, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
No, I do agree with both of you that I think this is a wonderful thing. And like you said, we've seen the need for this in the past. So I think getting something formalized on a page somewhere where we can constantly evaluate it will help both the VLST as well as your typical user.
So I guess the question is regarding this ticket. I mean, I could endorse it as is, or we could just throw it to the development team to see if they can come up with something. I mean, obviously the way that it is right now, it's only like you said, good for forms. It doesn't really do anything for wikis. So it should be a little more all inclusive.
Yeah, if you want to endorse it as is and then throw it our way, I'm actually going to be working, because I've got it on my list of things for the migration to update My Community, because we'd made all those other changes. So I'll be applying some of the updates that we had previously, not all of them, because we don't have the space constraints that we had previously, but that would be an excellent opportunity to try to address this at the same time if possible. So
okay, I'll change the status on it then.
Okay, great, thanks.
Awesome. Okay. So let's see. Were there any other items for the open forum? Alrighty. Well, we're running out of time here, so I'll do a quick review of the of action items that I have, and if everyone agrees, then we'll move ahead with those. The first one is issue 41-275 has been endorsed by the VIT. I will update that on the ticket and add the item to the ranking spreadsheet and invite members to rank that particular item. We'll also, invite the VIT to review the DXP version, so that I'll take as an action item to create that invitation. We also need to invite, and I will do that as well, the strategic planning team lead to give us an update at our next meeting on the status of their efforts. And let's see, I think that's all I have. Did I miss anything?
I think that was it.
Great. Then it looks like we're set for our next meeting.
Did you say something about mentioning with Steve about the VIT? Okay.
That is on my list. Do you want me to include that as an actual action item, or just take that as a personal?
No.
Okay.
That's personal.
Okay. Then I think we're good.
Okay. I think we're good to adjourn, John, till our next meeting. I appreciate everybody joining today and getting us a quorum. And as always, continue to look at the calendar invites and respond accordingly. And we'll go from there.
All righty. See y'all in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.